Good afternoon, all. So today we will be talking about a few things that I have on my list. The first thing, though, that I do want to do is go back and do an addendum to not the last video I did, but the video before, which was, or maybe it's two videos before, whatever the video I did about the two things to keep you from making it. And I realized between then and now that there's actually a third thing that's pretty important, and that is unforgiveness. So, um, enough said about that. So, two things, actually, maybe three things. Um, so, yes, unforgiveness will absolutely keep you from making it. So, just PS on that. So, I want to make sure that I got that right. Okay, so the other thing that I was going to say today was I went to Waco the other day, and it's not even really important for you to know that I did that. But I just was in the long line, waiting for my cupcakes, because that's basically the only reason one goes to Waco in our house. And I was waiting for my cupcakes, and I was listening to this testimony of a girl who had a dream, and it was all about like these angels. The way she was describing these angels, I was listening to her describe how like an angel came and picked up um, like she had children, but they weren't all with her, but she had her baby with her. And the angel came and like took her baby like from her. And she was like, "What about the other ones?" And he's like, "They're being picked up." Like, he was just letting her know like everything was fine, but which was, profound in itself or whatever. And, but she was just describing this angel, and she was just like, "Yeah, this angel, like he picked up my newborn, but like all of them were large enough, like they could have picked me up, like they picked that baby up. Like they just were just these huge, like beings that were just strong and huge." And, as she's describing this, I'm just like having just a moment of, I don't know, just thinking about like, what? I'm just like, this is weird, right? Or it's not weird, but just like, how is this happen? Like, how is that possible? And just kind of having a moment of stepping back and just thinking of this whole paradigm. And I'm just like, and I remember I was in line, and as she was saying that, and I looked over, and there's just like one of those telephone poles in front of me. And I'm just like, how is any of this like, I don't know. I just remember looking at the telephone pole, like this is a telephone pole. And she's talking about giant angels that can pick you up like a baby. I'm just like, how does this even translate? And it sort of dawned on me at that moment that God made this place humble because he's humble. And so, um, the people who don't believe in an afterlife or whatever, or they don't believe in God and all that, they do like to talk about, being this small, infinitesimal part of the universe. And I don't know why they feel like they need to say that, aside from the fact of, just the scale of space and of planets, and they just, and, and I don't know, it does something to them to realize like how small we are. Um, but in their paradigm, that's still a bad thing. Or maybe it's not bad, but it's a sign of your significance. If you're small, you're insignificant. And that's kind of one thing that we agree on, paradigm wise, is that yes, the universe is vast and we're very small and God is very big, but we do not agree that we are insignificant because of that. In fact, um, God has a way of, even if we were insignificant, it's like the more insignificant we are, the more important. It's very like an inversion of things. And so, but I think he did just design this place to be um, just an incredibly humble place on purpose, uh, because it just is humbling. And I just think he gets a kick out of having us not know anything about the larger, how large everything else is. And just the way that people are just constantly bowled over by what he probably considers like regular life. And these angels come and like pick you up, and you're just like, what? And they're like, come on, we're going to take you to God. We're going to take you to the Father. And you're like, what? What? Like, you just can't even believe it. And he's just like, hello, blessed and highly favored one. And you're just like, looking behind you. Like, I think he probably loves that. It's just, there's just a natural, it's just a humbling thing. Like, it's like he's ensured it to that we will have a certain level of humility, like built into our being because of living here. Um, and just being able to find God in just these really, really small pockets and sort of sense him in these little whatever. And in eternity, he's literally like permeating everything. And so it's just a real, I just think it adds a certain level of character. But it's just, I think he, I don't know. I just think like it's not out of the realm. In fact, it's very much in his personality for us to both be tiny and insignificant and also so important that he would die on the cross to save us. Um, it's very like on brand for him. So I just think it's funny that is even happening. And I think that also explains why, when we get lifted in pride, it is particularly disgusting and gross because this is like, tiny antsville, in comparison to eternity. And so for you to get like lifted in your tiny ant pride is like super awkward for the rest of the world. It's just like, no, that's not what we need to do. Like, this is a humble place. Like, don't, and then you get all, then we make our little ant prizes and ant accolades and stuff. It's like from our ant farm. And you, to the point where you're literally like killing your own mom just to get like the coveted, the ant pants that, only the most important ant gets to wear. And now you've killed your whole family, and now you're like, I got the ant pants. And it's just like, good job. You've killed, it makes sense. It's not so much like, oh, what God cares about or what we care about is detestable to God, and what God cares about is detestable to man, and it's inverted. And it's like, yeah, it is, but it's also not just that. It's that we're this tiny, tiny thing living this life that is so lowly, or living this experience that is so lowly. So when one of us just goes off the rails, or a group of us goes, yeah, we are the important dust specks. It just becomes like laughable. And God's like, no. No, we're not going to worship another dust speck. That's not what we're going to do. But it also makes me think like I understand why we do that, because I don't know, there's something in us that wants to worship something that's greater than us, but not so great that we don't understand that it's just like, what? Like, it's too much. So something that's greater, but also accessible in a way. So we tend to sort of worship something around us, something that we understand, which is great that Jesus exists, because uh, he's sort of this bridge between us and God that's actually, comprehensible or comprehensible, maybe is the word. So yeah, that I remember it being super profound when I thought of it, but I don't know, it didn't really sound profound just now. But God was literally like, you have to do your humility video. You have to do I was downstairs and he was like, when are you going to do the video? You got to talk about the ant pants. He likes that I said ant pants. Anyway, let's see, 11 minutes. Okay, so let me just squeeze this in, because there's no real topic to this. But I do want to mention it because I just love it. This is just one of my favorite, I don't know, meta tidbit things in the Bible. It's got to be one of my favorite things that I've ever been able to experience, which is something coming to pass. And I've got my Bible here, which I brought out because I was like, you know what, maybe I'll need it. And it was on top of my notebook that I have. So I was like, well, I'll just bring it out, whatever. So now I get to use it. But there's a passage, I'm going straight to Matthew, not even knowing if this is right. But the part where he's talking about, they're asking him what's going to happen at the end and what will it be like. And so he starts telling them like the different, the condition of the world and whatnot. And I don't know, I thought it was in Matthew, and it might be, I just don't know where it's at. I mean, I went straight to Matthew, like I was like, boom, I'm going to find it. I'm going to try Matthew, then I'm going to try Mark, and then I'm going to leave it. Okay, I think it's in Mark. Okay, so let me just read you a little bit of this, because it will probably be in here. So he says, they ask, tell us when will these things happen, and what will be the sign that they're about to be fulfilled? Because they ask him about the destruction of the temple. And then I think they really just asked, it looks like they just asked about the destruction of the temple, and he went on a tirade about all this stuff. And this is right before he says, no one knows the day or the hour, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you just got to blah, blah, blah when Jesus talks. I'm just kidding. Okay, so he's like, brother will betray brother to the death, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. Everyone will hate you because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you see the abomination that causes desolation standing where it does not belong, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down or into their house, blah, blah, blah. Pray this will not take place in winter, because those will be the days of distress, unequal from the beginning. So he's giving them a lot of things. He's saying, many will come in my name and deceive many. When you hear wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. Such things must happen. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places and famines. These are the beginning of birth pains. And it doesn't say it here, but unless, I don't know, I'm missing it, but one of the signs that he points out is that many will be offended. And that's literally all it says. It doesn't say what about. It doesn't say who the many are. He just says many will be offended. And watching that prophecy like come into itself, I don't know. Something about it is just utterly, utterly, utterly mind-blowingly fascinating. Because as long as I've been reading the Bible, I have seen that passage. And I've read where it says many will be offended. And it was in a pile with all the other little things that Jesus says that doesn't quite make sense. Does not make sense, but I don't know what he's talking about. You know, it's sort of like the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence and the violence take it by force. Like, no one knows what that means. Like, they don't. But you say it, and it sounds super important and super like, I mean, that's whatever he's saying is like, you know, it's not an opinion. Like, that's what is happening. So, you know, it's a fact, whatever he's talking about, whatever the context is. So just imagine one day the meaning of that passage just washing over you. It's like 18 years old, many will be offended. Like, I know what it is to be offended. I don't know what it means for Jesus to pick that out as one of the signs of the end, to the point where I'm like, what are we looking at? Many will be offended at what? Like, what happened? What are we talking about? And to be 18, 28, 30, 35, then you get to about 38, and you see the world has changed in such a way, and things have fashioned themselves in such a manner that the next time you read that passage, many will be offended. It just jumps out and into your pie hole. Like, I can't believe, like, this is like, forget Nostradamus. He's retarded. Okay. We're not talking about predicting, oh, there will be a calamity. Oh, there's going to be a war. Jesus said, many will be offended. It was so vague. You're like, at him? Like, it's like, why even mention that? What are you talking about? Why are you even mentioning that? It's so like, it's not pointing to anything. It's not pointing to anything until you have lived long enough to see that, to see a time where literally everyone is offended. Like, listen to that statement. Many will be offended. It sounds so vague and so like, in the future, like, no context whatsoever. And then boom, you're in it. And it is describing, it's actually describing it to a T. But you didn't know it when you first read it, or the second time, or the 100th time you read it. Like, he just described our current. I can't believe, like, it's like if Jesus was like, that little kid from the Spielberg movie is going to win an Oscar. Like, that's how, in the moment, like, that's how he pinpointed that. Like, that is so, to be like 2,000 years ago to say that. And people be like, what's an Oscar? And what's like, it just blows my mind to see that little piece of scripture like get fulfilled. Like, I just remember like whenever I read it, like a year ago, 2 years ago, and I just like sat up I was like, oh my God, that prophecy got fulfilled while I was sitting here. While I was living my life, that prophecy just came and like smacked me across the face, dude. It literally just like smacked me like this. Like, while I was living my life, it just was doing this, like, while I was like 18, 20, 21, 30, 30. Bam! Like, that is amazing. That is amazing. And he just said it as an off thing. And just for him to know everything and for him to pick out, like, the way that he picks out what he's going to say. And it's a secret, but then it becomes like very obvious regular news that everyone knows. How can it go from a secret to like public open information without doing anything different? It just blows my mind. Like, that is prophecy. That other stuff you're talking about is just not like, oh my gosh, I was wearing a red shirt that day. It's like, no, stop. That right there. Hey, doggy.
He's out front.
Doggy, were you out front? Did you figure out how to get out? Y'all want to see the dog? Doggy. That's not your name. Do you know what your name is? I don't think he knows what his name is. Come here. I don't know how to do this and how I'm looking at it, but maybe I should just, can I turn it around while I'm recording? Probably not. I'm going to mess it up. Anyway, here's my dog. Look. Is that your dog face? Is that your dog face? I'm going to just trust that you're in the frame. Anyway. All right. So I think I'm done talking. Yeah. That's him drinking water, if you can hear that. All right, guys. Laters.